Hey everyone, it's Kong again, and it's time for another long overdue Transcender episode. I thought I'd focus a little bit more on my favorite character now that I've had a chance to use him in Apex Arena for a little bit. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, Transcender overall is not a very good character. He can do a few things which may or may not be useful depending on how your match goes. So you may or may not remember my How I'm Building My Transcender video, which basically went over all of the ways that I'm putting this character together and my gear and such, and kind of explained the rationale for it in that one. But you can just quickly see here that I've built him with thorns and drop near, so obviously going for some reflective capabilities there. Now the first thing to mention before I get into some gameplay demonstrations is that Transcender's new hat is going to be coming to global servers in a few months. And it does give hit points, just like Tenyo's, so for me it'll be a good replacement. It doesn't give the potential for random game-changing buffs. Instead, what it gives him is plus 15% damage dealt when entering combat, which sounds good on paper. Obviously he does need capability to do more damage, given that his int stat is so low. But stacking damage on top of a low int stat isn't necessarily as game-changing as it sounds. Now, obviously more damage is better than no damage, so it's something. The other thing the hat does is when he enters battle, it gives him a stack of his talent. So rather than having to constantly use skills to stack up your talent, you can just gradually get them over time. Now, it only stacks up to 3, so this is going to have a hard cap on how useful that is over the course of a battle. But again, easier to stack up stats, better than not being able to stack up stats. The final thing it does is when you use your 3C Reversal of Fate to swap your HP, it also steals 3 buffs from the victim. The main nice thing about this is that those buffs will no longer be on the target. It's fine to take them and give them to Transcender, but being able to swap off like a guard skill or something, or defense up, or damage taken reduced, any kind of buff like that that you can take off a target is really going to help your killing potential. And you may not end up killing that target with Transcender either. You can piggyback off this Reversal of Fate to swap HP with one unit and then go and attack another one. Anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts on his unique equipment. I think it basically gives him a few extra little things, a few extra little boosts, but nothing that really changes the way he plays, nothing that significantly improves any of the weaknesses, the many weaknesses that he has. Anyway, let's continue on with some gameplay demonstration. Now, the specific way I've built my Transcender with Thorns as a reflective Transcender is so that one of the things he can do is bait units and counterkill them with Thorns, essentially. This first battle is just a scrim that I did with Leumas, I think before the season started. So we're both using kind of weird boxes. I don't think either of us are using these boxes now in Apex. Now, obviously, using Transcender to do any of these things, there's going to be lots of mitigating circumstances as well. So you can see on my side, I do have Landius deployed, and he's a faction buffer for Transcender, so that is going to give him a boost. And being able to be within Landius's aura range also means I'm going to be protected from some incoming damage as well. Now, I tried to pull Jugler out of guard range, or ahead there, so that Kyra would no longer be being guarded, and I could potentially fly Ares in and kill her, but Leumas smartly positioned Florentia in the only spot that my Ares could land to do that, so I wasn't able to pull it off that turn. So Leumas did give me the chance to bring Landius up into range of Transcender to put that aura back on him. Now my Transcender is hurt though, I'm at 85% health right now. And this Kyra is about to get Reflect killed. Now here's the nice thing about Reflect killing at such a close margin like that. I only have 6% HP left, so I was able to swap that to Jugler. Alright, this next battle is against fellow main quarter Joker. What I want to show in this match is the potential that Transcender has to be able to swap his hit points with people and make plays that way. So as you can see here, I have 2 tanks, a healer, and essentially 1 DPS, which is Lucretia. So Transcender is going to have to be able to find a way to contribute somehow. And I'm facing down what looks like it's going to be a rush team, with Ares, AoE, Bernhardt, Jugler with his splash, Tiny Jess for some playmaking abilities to jump in the rush as well. So I know I'm at least going to be taking a smack from Ares here, so I'm trying to position and get myself buffed up as much as I can to be able to handle that. Now here comes the next part of the rush. Hilda's able to push Jugler away, so he's not locking down our tanks, but the damage is done. Now Transcender's able to jump in, swap hit points with his Ares, and now that that essentially breaks the last rites, he can kill him easily. Use the puppet to pulse Transcender because I have a feeling I'm going to need that 3C again soon. I'm not as worried about the T-Jess, just because I think Hilda can probably take care of her, but Bernhardt's very threatening. Joker's regrouping with Bernhardt at this point. And very helpfully healing up the Bernhardt. Let my Transcender have even more HP when I swap. So that fills me up, and then I'm able to do some sweet magic damage to that Bernhardt, finishing off this match. So that was just an example of how handy the Transcender's 3-cost skill can be, as long as the opportunities present themselves in the match. If Transcender isn't taking damage and getting hurt to the point that he's able to swap the opponent down to an HP level that allows you to do something with it, then the opportunity to actually make plays and make kills might not actually come up. It really depends on how the match goes. Anyway, this next match took place during the regular season, and I just thought this was a pretty interesting one because it's not something I thought the Transcender would normally bring to the table, but I'm going to actually let ban pick play out for this one. So you can see one of the things Transcender does is bring Intimidation to the table. As soon as I made that 4th pick Transcender, boom, the match was already over. Joking aside, I think Adestrak realized that I had banned out his healers, and he forgot to pick one and probably just didn't want to play the match that way. I just thought the timing of the retreat was pretty funny. Alright, this next match is against Naglfire87, and it's also from Apex Arena laddering session. And this battle highlights the third thing that I think the Transcender can be actually used for. The first was reflect damage, the second was swapping hit points and then making whatever play based on that. The third thing is pulling stuff. So either pulling units away from their tank, or pulling tanks away from the units that they're protecting. You can see in probably a few of these battles I've been first banning Hilda, and that's because Hilda makes it so the rest of her team or any of the units around her can't be displaced. If I get Hilda off the table, and they end up playing Landius or Jugler or Christian or whatever tank, it makes it easier for me to be able to watch for the perfect opportunity to expose a unit. Now you can see here I'm playing against a couple of Assassins and an Elwyn who's probably not going to be too threatening against my Landius, but again I'm in a situation where I have a tank, 2 healers, and essentially 1 DPS plus a Transcender for whatever kind of utility he can bring. So let's watch for the opportunity and see what we can do against a well-guarded team like Naglfire's. If you're going to be trying any kind of displacement or pulling shenanigans, one thing you have to really look out for is turn order and turn priority. If you try to pull someone away from their tank and they still have the option to let their tank move again, or use an act again on the tank, or if the unit still has their action available and they can just run back to the tank, obviously you've kind of wasted your play. So this is an early example. I was able to pull Cherie out of guard range there by using my act again to make sure that I could do that while still having Waitham's action available to me. So I'm able to get the Cherie off the table right away. One nice thing about Waitham is he removes 2 turns worth of debuffs each turn, so he's able to get that heal block off in 1 movement. But anyway, this is not a video about Waitham. Getting Cherie off the table early was important, and it was definitely a great contribution by the Transcender's pull. But this battle is far from over. We have a really solid tank in Christian, We have an assassin in Kyra, we have a healer, and Naglfar's already kind of shored up in the middle of the map, so I need to be able to get in there somehow or start killing his units. Now you can see I did bring Crystal Molders on my Transcender in kind of the off chance, the off hope that Kyra would also kill herself on him. But she's obviously more focused on trying to get rid of that Waitham, which makes sense. He's clearly my win con in this fight. So crashing into the tank, even with Waitham, doesn't look that promising. So you can probably already see what I'm doing here, is I'm trying to get myself into a position where I can use Transcender to pull that Christian away, and then still have an action left for Waitham afterwards to take advantage of that and kill someone. So now we've got the Act again for Transcender. Naglfar's entire team is pretty much committed at this point, so I'm able to pull Christian away. I still have Waitham available to me. And that's another dangerous DPS down. So that's a pretty good example of being able to use Transcender to enable your other units to make key kills. It really did rely on me being able to keep that Waitham alive, and the Kyra not being able to secure the kill, especially since I only had one other DPS. If Waitham was already dead, then that match would have been over and not in my favor. So there's just one more match I want to show, and it's kind of related to the last one because it focuses on Transcender's ability to pull units and displace them. This is against another main quarter, DeadlyMango, and it was during Apex Arena laddering session from this weekend that just passed, actually. And it's on the annoying floating courtyard sky map, which normally makes it very difficult for the Transcender's pull or displacement to actually be useful, because there are so few lanes to actually pull someone. Most units you can't pull into the sky, plus there are a couple pillars in the way, so we'll just see how this plays out, how messy it ends up being, and if the Transcender is actually able to do anything valuable against this team. I put Ode on Jugler because I want to make sure he doesn't get heal reversal from this Reen. And I have Sorceresses on the Transcender just to let him fly, which gives him a little bit more mobility and positioning options on this map. I'm just repositioning myself backwards a little bit to allow Jugler and Liana to get some more debuffs off after that big Reen splash. Even though Transcender has heal block, he is able to swap HP because it's not a heal. But unfortunately, he didn't have enough gas left in the tank to actually finish that Reen off after swapping. Reens are pretty bulky. even though that Reen was completely on cooldown, I did kind of still want to get him out of the way. Now, I screwed up my guard priority here. I was hoping that Landius would be taking these hits, but for some reason, Jugler is the one who is guarding. I moved him back in the hopes that Landius would take a hit for Sigma, but Mango smartly readjusts and attacks into Liana instead, knowing that Jugler will still be guarding her. So he's able to get rid of my Jugler. And I'm going to start making a play for the center here, knowing that if I get locked out of mid, there's absolutely no way I have a chance of winning this. Now, as you've seen through a couple of these matches, I have been using Transcender's Disintegrate AoE, and as an AoE unit alone, he's not really that impactful. He has one big AoE that's on a lengthy cooldown. It does a couple of debuffs, which, for the most part, people are very easily able to immunize against or remove. So it can sometimes be used to splash damage at people or, you know, maybe injure a Himiko or something, but I don't really consider him to be a very strong AoE unit in and of itself. That's why I focus on these other kind of utility things that Transcender can do. That was kind of a waste of an act again. I was hoping that there might be an opportunity to do something on this turn, but there didn't end up being anything that he could do there. Now, the thing to keep an eye on here is, even though both teams are pretty entrenched in the middle of the map, Mango is beating me on damage by a lot. So even if we go to time, he's going to win this. Now, I think that Jessica misplay was because of backup time. He ran out of time and the AI auto-moved his Jessica out. But even with that mistake, like I mentioned, he's not in a bad position unless I can catch up on damage somehow. And we're really only looking at 3 or 4 turns worth of damage to catch up on. Disintegrate, obviously it looks like it's not helping a great deal. Christiane has a revive too, so it's not looking increasingly likely that I'll be able to actually kill her before turn 12. Certainly not going to catch up on damage. So there's only one thing I can do. After he's committed her action, pull her out of the middle of the map into the fog and then close the gap. He's not able to get back in, and that was a scrappy, disgusting win. So great game, DeadlyMango, and a nice little showcase of Transcender being useless for 12 turns until the very end when he did one thing. Ideally, most of your matches aren't going to end up in that position, but in the off chance they do, that's one little thing that you might need to rely on. So that's just my little showcase of what I think are the 3 things that Transcender actually can bring to the table if you're using him as a utility unit in your lineup. I don't really like him as a pure DPS, but you can sometimes use him as a reflective bait unit against very specific characters. You can also use his 3C to swap HP, especially if you're really hurt somehow. You can bypass heal block with that. break last rites or any of the other 100% HP dependent techs, and then maybe be able to finish them off, or some other unit, with your act again. And the third and final thing is being able to pull units out of position. This really relies on the enemy not having Hilda. You also have to bear in mind that it's a line attack, so it'll pull everyone within its range. So if you accidentally target the tank and your target unit, it's just going to pull the tank right along with them and make it useless. It also only pulls them 2 blocks, so it's not like a full chain hook that'll pull the enemy all the way towards you. So you do still have to make sure you have a DPS with enough range to get in and take advantage of the pull. Anyway, hopefully this video was fun, if not enlightening. But thank you for watching regardless, and I hope you all have great luck in your Apex Arena matches for the rest of the season. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy Langrissing, everyone.